The IRS statistics say that the top 1% in our country pay 40% of the income tax, and that those making less than $50,000.
Donald Trump doesn't pay any income tax.
So that was Rand Paul getting laughed at by the audience of The View for basically claiming that, well, I mean, rich people, they pay more taxes, and that's why they've got it hard. That's why we can't raise taxes and have quote-unquote free stuff. So, okay. Now, here's the thing. He says the 1% pays about 40% of all the taxes, right? So, you know what? Actually, the rich actually pay a lot less. Before I get into that, of course, I want to give you the rest of the context of the conversation. It started out with Rand Paul basically arguing that, hey, look, our tax system is different, and that's why you guys can't have nice things like Medicare for all and free college. Take a look.
So we have massive taxes here, but we don't get any free stuff. We don't have free health care. Well, our public education system is a problem. Seems like the only people that get free stuff are the very, very wealthy.
We have a different form of taxation in our country. Ours is much more progressive. So we've taken the poor off of the rolls. They don't pay income tax anymore. Most people below $50,000 don't pay any income tax. The top 1% in our country pay 40%.
Our audience says that's not true.
Well, the IRS statistics say that the top 1% in our country pay 40% of the income tax, and that those making less than $50,000.
Donald Trump doesn't pay any income tax.
Damn. Okay, so no, the point is we pay taxes, but those taxes are not going to things that actually help us. So no, look, I feel a little shafted, right? Again, a lot of us do pay taxes, and we actually would like to have decent health care and decent education and things like that. So now Rand Paul says, hey, look, you know, if you make under $50,000, you don't pay taxes at all. But you know what? That's not exactly accurate. You still end up paying state and local taxes. Those are actually more regressive. And now the federal tax code, by the way, at the top, according to a study, has actually become regressive as well, thanks to the spate of tax cuts, the most recent, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, or the Donald Trump tax cuts. So now, according to a book, Triumph of Injustice, by economists Emmanuel Saez and Gabriel Zuckman from the University of California, Berkeley, in 2018, the average effective tax rate paid for by the 400 richest families in the country was not 40%, it was 23%. Not 40, like he says, oh, the rich people pay 40% of all the taxes, right? And they pay incredibly high rates, and they pay more taxes than the middle class. No, the effective tax rate, 23%. So they're actually paying less in taxes, even though they do pay taxes, right? So now that's a full percentage point. That is lower than the 24.2% rate paid by the bottom half of American households. So, yes, they are paying more of the taxes, but they're paying less as well. So now the richest families in the country, again, they pay less than I do. That's garbage. The audience knows that it's garbage. So, and look, here's the thing. You know what? Back in the 1980s, the 400 richest Americans actually had an effective tax rate of about 47%. In 1960, the rate was as high as 56%. So what we've done since the 1970s and 80s, especially since the 80s, since Ronald Reagan, was slash the effective tax rate for the rich and corporations. So now, essentially cut in half, while the effective tax rate paid for by the bottom 50% has barely changed at all. And so, now what's interesting about this study, of course, and why, of course, Rand Paul is misleading, is because this analysis includes not just federal income taxes, which, again, the rich do pay a majority of, let's be honest, because they have pretty much most of the money, but also corporate taxes, as well as taxes paid at the state and local levels. So you combine them all together, and you end up having working class people paying a higher effective tax rate than the rich. Now, something that this also includes is indirect taxes, right? It's about $250 billion worth every year. And indirect taxes are basically government fees, right? For example, licenses for vehicles in businesses. Those taxes and fees, like you all know, they've increased over time for us. Why? It's because the states are getting less federal money. And a lot of states have also cut taxes on the rich and corporations. And so they've had to make up that money by cutting services, reducing spending, and also increasing fees and taxes on regular working people. But see, no, they know this, right? Rand Paul knows this. Everyone knows this. But Rand Paul serves donors. The donors want to pay as little in taxes as they can. So he says, yeah, but the rich pay 40% of all the income taxes. And so we pay so much out of our income, which is actually not true. Again, as a percentage of their income, they actually pay less than working people, as I've shown you. No, they don't care. Poor us. Poor rich people. Why don't you think of the rich people? You should be thankful that we pay anything at all. I mean, poor us, right? Well, if he had his way, they wouldn't. And so here's the thing. We need to have a fair tax system, obviously. If you make more, you should end up paying more as a percentage of your income. That's the whole point of a progressive tax system, is to say that the people at the top who have benefited the most from society should get back a larger percentage in order to make sure that we have basic services, as well as being able to make sure that other people have the opportunity to also make it big and give back to their country. That used to be how America worked. This isn't a new idea. This isn't some crazy European socialism. No. We did it here in America. We perfected it. We had, at a time in this country, productivity and wages rising at the same level. We had a vibrant middle class, higher taxes on wealthy people, which, by the way, wealthy people were still incredibly wealthy, even during that time when they had tax rates, and I'm not saying the effective tax rate, but a marginal tax rate of over 90%. Rich people, still rich, but we actually had a middle class. Now, it's the opposite. We have most of the money that's flowed to the top that now benefits only the wealthiest Americans. The middle class has shrunk. It is deeply, deeply in debt. That's the only reason that we have a middle class now, is because they've had to take out so much debt to keep up that lifestyle. And so the system has gotten way, way too top heavy, and we need a course correction. I believe a wealth tax is a great place to start. Elizabeth Warren has a good wealth tax. Bernie Sanders has an even better, more aggressive wealth tax that targets people like Jeff Bezos, who, by the way, Amazon did not pay taxes last year, and yet Amazon's CEO is the wealthiest man alive. There is no reason that we should have so many billionaires worth that much money. A billionaire is a policy failure. That's why we need a wealth tax. That's why we need progressive taxation to bring this back in line. If it doesn't, I can't really see what's going to happen, but I know it ain't going to be good. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com TYT Nation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.